Are you struggling to kick off your freelancing journey? Well, then this video is your ultimate guide. I'm excited to introduce a special guest and a dear friend, Sai Pramod, a skilled senior SDET engineer who's made a name for himself in the freelancing world. We've got tons of valuable insights and tips in store for you, so be sure to stick till the end. And before we dive in, don't forget to check out the link in the description and comments for a handy cheat sheet on launching your freelancing career. Now let's get started with the video. Pramod, thank you so much for joining. I'm super happy to have you here. Now, you and I know each other for a couple of years, and I think the first time we met was on Upwork itself, where you worked on one of the projects with me, right? So since then, you had some great success over the years doing freelancing work that made you one of the top-rated freelancers on Upwork. And I think you've made over 40,000 on this platform, which is quite impressive. And not only that, with the freelancing work you did, you even got approached by the Upwork company itself for an SDET position, and you got hired for that. So that
Right.
is just simply amazing, and I'm really extremely happy about that. So today I want to talk about the journey with you, how you got started with software testing, and what made you to start your freelancing work. And mainly, what were some of the struggles and challenges that you faced when you were starting your freelancing journey? And then finally, how you overcame that to become one of the top-rated freelancers that you are today. So
Yeah.
does that sound good?
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with like a really basic question. Like, tell me what inspired you to specialize in, let's say, software testing and test automation specifically, and how did you develop your expertise in this area?
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me for this interview, and I'm pretty much excited to share my story, and then hopefully it should help someone who really wants to start their career as a freelancer. So I would start with like I have completed my graduation year 2019, wherein I got a job in campus placements, and then I joined the company. I mean, after 2 weeks of my college, I joined the company, and then there I was trained on manual testing initially, and then later we started working on automation. They gave like around 10 to 15 days of training on automation testing, and later from then they have deployed me to an automation project wherein like I started from there with the automation. And in the initial stages I struggled a lot. The framework and then the code was really very huge, and then to understand a complete framework, the classes and everything written, it was really hard initially. And slowly like things started getting better. I started accumulating the framework, and then I started working on automation, and then from there it started, and now I'm here.
Perfect. So, how much years of experience you had before you started with, let's say, your freelance journey?
Before freelancing, I would say like around I have around 2 years of experience when I started my freelancing.
Okay, interesting. So what led you to start freelancing? Like you were doing great and you joined a new company, you obviously went from manual to automation. And I feel like there are a lot of people that can relate with that. I had the same journey. I started with manual testing and then I moved to automation. And then same as you, I struggled a lot with automation in the beginning. And I was like, I cannot do this. I mean, this is so hard. Coding, I don't understand. So I struggled a lot as well. And then eventually things get better and then you improve and stuff. So what took you from, let's say, doing that to moving to a freelancing journey? And then what are some of the benefits you have found doing freelancing so far?
Yeah, when I started with my job, I was getting comfortable with my job and stuff, wherein I was completing the job in time, like around completing all that task and stuff. And then I was getting enough time to concentrate on my other stuff. So I did not specifically look for freelancing stuff. I started, to learn some things new and then to improve my skills technically. So from there it started, and then after learning too much of skills, like obviously we'll feel to to showcase something, to work for something. So I started looking for some additional work that can help me grow technically as well. So from there, like I was having enough time in my job, so I started working as a freelancer.
Nice. Okay. So when you did, I mean, obviously, I think that's one of the things everyone does. Either the motivation is they want to make some extra money, or the motivation is they want to improve in their technical skills.
Right.
They had some extra time to do that. So rather than, let's say, watching Netflix or doing stuff like that, it's always better to be able to do freelancing and get more experience there.
Right.
So ever since you started doing like your freelance journey, how was it like in general? Like what are some of the benefits you found? And what would you say, let's say someone else trying to get into the similar path, like what some of the advantage other than the money part, like is there any from technical perspective? Did you learn a lot of new skills? And how was that experience so far?
Yeah, when I say freelancing, it's like you are the only person who will be the whole responsible for the complete project and stuff. If it is a single resource project, like you will be the whole responsibility of the project that you are working with. And then here, like you should be in a position to handle all the things that come up in your project. You should handle I mean, no one will be there to mentor or on interview. So I would say person who can work independently, and then who has all the skills that the project required, can really start coming up this side into freelancing, and he can really grow really very technically strong. Even because when I say technically strong, if you are facing any challenges in the real time, like you will be the only one who has to solve the issues, and then who has to like we keep on learn something new when we are trying to solve any issue, right? Like we will not find the solution immediately. Like we'll research some stuff, and then we'll get some inputs from the Google and everywhere, and then therein like you will find the end result of that specific problem. So I would say like it will really help you to grow technically really high, wherein you'll keep on learning some things new every day to day.
Yeah, makes sense. I think what you said around being independent, I think that's one of the most important because you're kind of working as a solo entrepreneur. You have your own projects, you're working with the client, and you have to figure all those things. It's not just the technical part. There's a lot of other steps involved as well. Like you have to manage the project, you have to work with the client, there's communication and all of those things involved. So it's not just, okay, you're technically good, that means you can directly jump. So you need to acquire those skills as well. How
Right.
was that experience? Like, do you feel like when you started in the beginning, like specifically, let's say you had some technical experience past 2 years, you were working on an existing company, but what were some of the other skills you would say that you gained when you started working on those freelance projects? Like specific, one of the things we are talking about is this, making sure being independent. So was there like some training you did, or is this something as you were working on a new projects, you were kind of learning those different things and trying to figure it out on your own?
Yeah, like when I started working as a freelancer, like I should be in a position to handle all the things on my own, wherein I
Yeah.
have to gather all the requirements from the client, and then all the inputs I have to gather, and then what exactly the client needs. I mean, what is he expecting from me? I should gather all the information from him, and then from there, it's like once we started working in the freelancing and stuff, like you will automatically gain experience in in taking all the inputs and then working independently and stuff.
Makes sense. Okay. So when you got your first project, let's talk about that. What's usually are the strategies to, let's say, specifically on Upwork to find
Okay.
clients as well as finding projects? Like, are there specific strategies that you can apply to get more clients or more projects?
Yeah, like generally Upwork deals with client and then the freelancer, wherein the client is the one who posts a job on the Upwork platform, and the freelancer can submit a proposal for the job with the rate, and then with his qualifications and skills and everything. So once he has all the information with him from the client side, he can submit the job, and then wherein the client will review the things, and then the client will will if the requirements and if the freelancer skills are matching, then he'll accept the proposal and everything. The mistake that I did was like when I started submitting proposals,
Mhm.
it's like I just simply I want just simply I have so and so skill, I can work on the project on time and time. But at that time I was not getting any inputs, any proposal acceptance was not happening from their side. Later, after
Right.
reading many articles and stuff, I realized that we should showcase our complete profile to the client, our
Right.
complete profile in a simple letter, which will represent your complete technical skills, and then the quality of the work that you do. Everything should be showcased to the client, and then from there the client, by seeing all these skills, all these skills and stuff, he'll obviously try reaching out to you. So from there
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Makes sense. I think that's a really really good advice. I have noticed that as well. A lot of people. I currently work as a client, and I hire lots of people on Upwork. And when I do that, I've seen there's so many people that will just simply apply without having, let's say, any good proposal strategy or any good profile. Let's say if I want to learn more about that person, there is no information on their profile. So obviously, I would not prefer that person, right? I would rather go with someone that, what you mentioned, has shown all of the profile of all the experience that they have done, side projects and so on, right? I would
Right.
prefer for someone like that to be able to work on my project compared to someone whose profile is pretty much empty, right? You would not really want to be working with them. So I think that's a really solid advice that you gave there. So
Right.
what was your first project like? Like, because that's, I feel like when I started on freelancing journey as well, the most difficult thing was landing your first project, because you don't really know at that point. So what
Right.
was that like journey like, landing your first project? And after that, was it easy to get subsequent projects for you?
Okay, when I say the first project, like you mentioned, it's the hardest part in getting the first project in any freelancing stuff, wherein I really struggled like around 6 months or so, like in getting the first
Wow.
project in Upwork. I was continuously submitting proposals, everything, but never get any acceptance from client side. And then one fine day, like I read many articles and stuff, and then I started, put put the proposal in such a way that if it is related to any project related, I would share some sample code, like this is what I am, this is what I have done in that specific project, and then some test cases, sheet links and all, like if it is related to manual side. So I would mention all the stuff. And then the first product which I worked was with you, wherein like you hired me for working as a automation tester for one of your projects, wherein I have learned many things with you. I started like it's a great journey with you.
Yeah, so it's for the listeners here. So Pramod actually started his first project with me, and that's how he actually landed his first project. And I feel like I remember when you applied for the proposal, that was kind of the first thing I saw, that even though you didn't really have, let's say, prior Upwork experience, but I saw that you already have good amount of experience working in, let's say, in your existing company. At the same time, you were able to explain what are some of the things you can do for that particular project, right? In my case, I think it was some test automation project, and you were able to
Right.
say, hey, this is how I can help you out in this project, this is your experience. And obviously, once I interviewed you and the whole interview experience went, I could clearly see that you was more than willing to go ahead and work on that project. So there was that willingness, the profile was good, the proposal was good, and that all of that made you, basically, for me to, at least as a client, to select you for that project. And I think
Right.
those are some really extremely important skills. So I think, yeah, you probably nailed that over there. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. So, I mean, so let's say you got your first project, you worked with me. After that, what was it like? Is there any, tell me maybe like a one successful projects you feel like you've done for a client. And then
Okay.
after that, like, did you leverage that experience to gain some additional work or referral from a client? Or is it work basically through, let's say, a review system?
Okay, like Upwork completely works on review system. Like if you have like four or five projects completed on your profile, you will start to see a job success score and then multiple badges on your profile. I mean, these
Right.
job success score and then these badges will help you stand out from other freelancers on that Upwork platform. So when the
Right.
client searches for some freelancer, like let's say the client will also have an option to to send an invite to the freelancer. So once you start getting some good projects and long term projects, and then it's like you will be getting some 5-star ratings on there, and then and then obviously your job success score will be high and everything, wherein the
Yeah.
client will also have an option to filter the freelancers based on the job success score, based on the badges and everything. So by taking things from client perspective, so obviously the client will look for someone like who is more experienced, who is more
Right.
proved to be as a freelancer on that specific Upwork platform, right? So it's like the first 2 or 3 projects was pretty hard to to get things done, and then to get the 5-star ratings from the client side and everything. So once you, well, like I mentioned earlier, you'll be seeing some job success score and then the
Yeah.
badges. So once you have finished some projects, obviously the job success score and then the badges will be displayed on your profile. So based on that, the clients will start approaching to you. I mean, you will still have an opportunity to apply, but as your but based on your profile and experience, it's already proven that you are proved to be a freelancer. So in that case, the client will start reaching out to you, and then from there, it's like, I mean, only like 4 to 5 projects will be pretty hard on Upwork. Once you start getting done with projects, like you will not have enough time to finish all the projects.
Yeah, makes sense. I think in the beginning, when you start and you start getting good reviews, the first tag, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first one they add is like rising talent, right? You said
Right,
that
rising talent.
this person is now doing good. He has already done 1 or 2 projects which had good reviews. And
Right.
after that rising talent, that's when if you start doing more, that when it switched to from rising talent to, let's say, the top rated freelancer, right? Like that's the
Right.
switch that they do. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, that makes sense. Like once you have enough good profile and good reviews, it's just easier because you don't have to apply anymore. The clients are coming to you because you have
Right.
that strong profile. They are coming to you and you're getting more and more work. And like you said, sometimes then it's around the point where it's hard for you to manage that many amounts of work because so
Right.
many clients are reaching out to you. You have such a strong profile. So yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. And that's where we would want people to get to, right? So that's right now, I feel like that's kind of the most struggle everyone goes through when they're applying. And I want to talk about a little bit more detail on what you mentioned and on creating a profile. So what are some of the key elements to having like a really strong profile so that someone from like client perspective, they will be like, yeah, I'm going to go with this person compared to someone with, let's say, not as much of a strong profile.
Like I would say, in creating profile, you should maintain the profile 100%, which means whatever the field the Upwork is asking, you should fill all the fields. Let's say if there is some description needs to be added for your profile, in this case you have to mention all the things that you own, all the skill set, like what you can do, like what client really needs from like you should showcase all your profile skills on that specific description. And then like
Right.
you will also have a thing called project portfolio, wherein you can mention any of your previous real-time projects. I mean, it's really not necessary to be only related to freelancing. You can also take some external projects that you have already done, and then you can add that information as well there. I mean, by seeing all these things, the client will automatically understand that he is a capable freelancer who can do projects in time. I mean, we will already mention them some set of projects here in the profile, and then if there are some certifications included, we can also add those certifications as well to the profile. And then recently Upwork is tied up with Credly, so automatically you can import your certification from Credly to Upwork. Like if you have any certification on Credly,
Right.
and then you can directly import your certificate from Credly to Upwork as well.
Okay, that's interesting. So I didn't know about the Credly part. So that's really nice because that kind of adds that, okay, this person has experience and you can clearly see that, let's say
Right.
whether it's in JavaScript or whichever programming language that you have experience, you can at least add that certification there you
Right.
have done.
Right.
Yeah. So you talked about like having some additional side projects. So someone who don't really have a work experience, let's say in your case, you had around 2 years of experience. If someone who's a fresher and they want to start with this freelancing journey, because maybe in today's market, it's really hard to find a job in the market because of recessions and the way things are going. So if they want to maybe switch to a freelancing, right? And at this point, they don't really have work experience. So what
Right.
would you recommend for them to do before they, let's say, create their freelancing profile? Because imagine they don't really have work experience. They don't really have that much side projects as well. Would you say that it's better to focus on building those side projects first and then applying? Or you feel like, oh, they should start pretty much start doing both the things in parallel at the same time?
Right. Like I would say, like, initially build your strength. I mean, you should know your strength, and like on which field I can start my freelancing with, on which areas of expertise do I have. Like if you're comfortable with all the things, and then like I mentioned in the starting, you should be independent. Like if you have all these skills in hand, like you can automatically start creating a freelancing profile. And then you have to, while submitting a proposal, you have to be honest, stating that I really don't have any experience in IT, but still I can manage doing things. I have so and so experience. So these are some of the proofs that I can share. When I say proofs for a fresher, we'll not be having any project related, but still we can still share some, some online projects wherein you really practice it there, and then you really learn from there. So if I mean, based on all this information, the client, if he is comfortable with hiring a fresher, and then if he is in a position to to encourage the starting freshers, then obviously you will end up landing with a job there.
Right. So I think to kind of summarize that, it's better to have, if you don't have work experience, focus on the skill set and the strengths that you have, right? Like if you're into, let's say, programming, then focus on what are some of the skill sets you have, whether that's Java, JavaScript, whatever language it might be. And then try to showcase some projects based on that. Before applying with a profile that's pretty much empty, try to see if you have, let's say, projects on GitHub that you can show, some kind of if you create blogs or some of those kind of things, right? If you can show that, hey, I've been in the industry, even though I don't have work experience, I still have experience through XYZ stuff, working, learning on my own, trying to figure these things out on my own, right? So it's good for someone, let's say, who's trying to start without the work experience. Try to build your profile a little bit on the side. And then once you feel like, okay, you are strong, technically you can take on a job, because let's say you even end up working on, let's say you end up getting a job, but if you cannot do the job, then what's the point, right? Because they give you to build a framework on something, but you have never done that. So you're just going to struggle and you're going to get bad rating. That's going to affect you even a lot more, rather than what you said is know your strengths. If you know that you have done this before in the company, be honest to yourself and be honest to the client, and then apply accordingly.
Right. You're exactly right.
Yeah. All right. That's quite helpful. So once they build their profile, the next step is, you start applying for proposal. Like you start looking for all the jobs that are there. You find a relevant one that works for you, and then you apply through a proposal. So typically a client would list out the job responsibilities. Hey, this is what I need. And then I remember there's also some questions they would ask you. Describe your, let's say, relevant work experience, share your projects and stuff. So what is that strategy like in terms of creating a proposal and then applying through that?
Like here, I would say, like you have to mention all the skills that you have in the specific cover letter, and then like you mentioned, there will be some sort of question some clients might ask. So based on the question, like here in this case, you have to showcase your skills. Like you have to mention like GitHub repository, and then if there are any blogs or anything stuff like you already mentioned, like you have to put everything in that before submitting your proposal. So based on that, the client will see like, so okay, so and so freelancer has so and so experience, he has done the blog, and then make sure the blog and repository is accessible to the client. Because if it is not accessible, so he or she cannot see the stuff, right? So we should make sure that is accessible, and then that should reflect your profile to the client.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think that's quite important. Just listing whatever you have in your profile, try to list all those out in your proposal as well, because sometimes they're not going to go to your profile. Even if you have amazing profile, but your proposal is bad, most likely they'll just reject it right there. Because from client perspective, I see like 20 people applied to this job, and I'm just looking at the proposal. I'm not going to go to check your profile each and every time, right? So it's better to have that really strong proposal at the time that you're applying as well. So tell me about like your strategy. Have you improved in terms of when you started with your first job, in terms of the way you were creating your proposals compared to how you create it now? Have you made some changes in your strategy?
Yeah, I really made some changes. So that is the reason clients hired me. If not, it would have been pretty hard. So like I mentioned, like in the initial stages, I was just sending a simple cover letter. Hey, I can do this job in time. I have so and so skills. I mean, there were no proof for that. I mean, in this real world, if there is no proof, nothing is going to be acceptable, right? Okay. So you have to mention all the proof and everything. So based on the proof, I started, writing some, vast proposals. Like I have so and so experience. Here is a proof for that. I have so and so. I think here is a test case link. You can click to check my, check my progress, like how I'm writing stuff and everything. So
Right.
based on this, all these stuff, once the client sees the proposal and everything, like he'll go through all the things that we have showcased to him, and then based on that, like he'll discuss with you for the next steps.
Makes sense. And do you usually like customize your proposals each time you're applying for, let's say, a new job? Because oftentimes when people would do job hunting, they would copy paste with
Right,
every job proposal. So
right.
what's your strategy? Do you customize every time when you're applying for a new job?
Yeah, we have to customize because no two jobs will have the same requirements and then same responsibilities, right? So based on the job requirements and then the responsibility, we have to submit the things. It's not that we'll just copy paste the thing that we have
Yeah.
already submitted. Based on the requirements, you have to submit like hey, yeah, I have this skill that will help you fulfill the requirement. So
Right.
based on that, you can submit the things.
Yeah. So I think for the folks that usually say like some of the challenges and struggles in terms of getting a job in like freelancing job, I think that these are some of the skills that they should look for, right? Make sure you have a strong profile. Make sure you're
Right.
customizing your proposal each time. First of all, building a really good proposal. Then second, customizing those proposals as well when you're applying. And then having those, let's say, those side projects that we were talking about, listing them out in your profile. These are some of the tips that will really help you out. So I think that's pretty good. So once the proposal is accepted, right? What's the typical next step? Like, do they do a typical interview with let's say the freelancer, or is it usually if the proposal is accepted, you get the job and then you start working on the project directly?
No, once the proposal is accepted, then we'll have a discussion like project details in detail, followed by
Right.
a technical discussion as well. Because the client should trust you, right? Like so, yeah, you can do this job. Like once client gets that trust with you, then he'll hire you on the platform itself. And then we do have like hourly jobs and then fixed rate jobs as well on Upwork. If it is, I mean, based on the client need and everything, he can hire you. If it is a hourly job, we will be
Right.
getting paid for every hour that we work. If it is a
Right.
fixed bid, then it's like we'll get paid once we deliver the project for them.
Yeah, makes sense. So is it like in terms of the interview process, when you go through that, like what's your prep process like for that? Like when you apply for an interview, is it almost same as when you apply to, let's say, a proper job that you would do, let's say that you were already doing a job? Do you do same kind of preparation, or is it more lenient and it's not as detailed interview? It's more like a casual interview. Like how does
Yeah.
that, or is it like, is it different from client to client? I guess that also matters.
Yeah, it will obviously differ from client to client
Yeah.
because the requirements and then they'll not be same. I mean, some client will be expecting something, some client will be expecting some other stuff, right? So when I
Right.
say interview preparation, like it's quite same because at the end you have to prove them, right? You have to prove them that you possess the skill and then you're in a position to work for that specific requirements.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's like in a normal job, it's like continuous job wherein you start from, I mean, you will not be starting from scratch here, like
Yeah.
wherein you will be put into some existing project and everything. Whereas
Yeah.
here in freelancing, it's not like that. There might be some jobs wherein they hire you for some existing projects as well, but not particular into the existing project. Like we have to start from scratch. So here it's like you have to prove the client that you can start from scratch and then you are capable of delivering the project in time, and then make sure you should not compromise the quality over there.
Right, right. So you're working like pretty much for freelancing, you're working as a specialist. You have a task assigned to you and you're focusing on delivering that task. So it's a lot different than, let's say, working in a large organization. We have lots of onboarding support. The team is working with you, really like training you. Here they're hiring you for a specific, most of the cases, they hire you for a specific task. You have to deliver this and you come in as an expert, as a consultant to come into that particular job, deliver whatever they need and kind of provide some feedback on how they can improve, right? That's pretty much how it usually works out, right?
Right.
Cool. So one thing I want to check with you is like in your profile, if someone goes in, you have had consistent on positive feedback, and you have had 5-star reviews from pretty much all of your clients,
Right.
and which is really, really amazing. So how have you done that, and how can others do the same as well?
Okay, like I would say consistent 5-star rating. It's like I really did not concentrate first on the rating part, because if you have your work done on time and with quality, and the client is satisfied with your work and everything, then automatically I would feel that then obviously the rating and then the reviews will be high. I mean, the client will be giving you the specific set of reviews and then the ratings, right? So first, I would say for a starting of a freelancer, it's like you have to concentrate more on how to deliver the work with quality, which in turn it's like it will automatically suggest a client, like it will automatically give client an heads up that, hey, yeah, your freelancer has done all the requirements that you need. Then obviously the client will give you a 5-star rating for sure. I mean, there are some difficult clients as well who really not satisfied with the job, but it's like in this case, like you really cannot do anything else.
Right. I was just gonna get to that. I'm like, sometimes there's just difficult clients that are really hard to please, and it's really hard to get that review. Like, have you
Right.
had a particular challenging project where you're like, oh, I'm struggling with this one, and in terms of really making sure that you had to go above and beyond to get that, let's say, the 5-star rating over there?
Yeah, by God's grace, for now I did not face any such client,
Nice.
because that is the reason why you are able to see all 5-star ratings over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. First, so let's say if you take on a project and you don't really know, that's something I used to have this. I was scared of in the beginning. Like, what if I take a
Mhm.
project and I am not able to deliver on that, right? Because either from the technical perspective, I'm not able to do that project, or there's some other challenges that come in. So how would someone handle that situation if someone has that think in their mind that, hey, I don't want to take on the project if it's too big or if it's too challenging for me? So what would some of the steps would you suggest for that person to that they can do at
Yeah.
that point?
Here it's like you are the person who is going to choose the job, right? So
Right.
based on your skill set and then your capability, I would say select the job that is really needed, that you can really do. I mean,
Right.
there might be some situations where there might be some technical glitches inside of the project. In this case, it's like you have to push your hearts, and then you have to push your extent, and then you have to start researching things on it, and then you have to work really for the project. It's like you
Yeah.
have to learn something new if there is anything mistake, any glitch inside the project.
Yeah, that's true. I think what you mentioned is being able to do your own research, that you have to spend some time learning, you have to dedicate
Right.
extra hours trying to figure out, okay, how I can solve this thing, really do some research compared to just saying that I cannot do this, right? So it's about putting in that effort. So that is extremely important to do.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. So I just want to ask like one last tip. If someone wants
Mhm.
to start their freelancing journey, what would you say they should do? And given that you have talked about a lot of some amazing tips and tricks for someone starting their own journey today in freelancing journey, what
Mhm.
would that steps look like for them?
Yeah, I would say like you have to build your strengths. Wherein when I talk about strengths, you have to know your areas of expertise. You have to build your skill set. You have to start learning things. You should be in a position to learn something new, and then you should have a proper communication skill as well, because communication is the only one which keeps a link between you and your client. And then
Right.
you will also have to set your rates as well. Like you should not expect more than something that the market has. Like you have to
Yeah.
set your own rate and everything. Like if he or she has all these skills, and then he or she can work independently, then yeah, they are good to start with freelancing. And then one more thing is that they should balance their work life balance also should be there. It's like freelancing is something that you work in your free time, right? It's like you cannot completely work for a freelancing. I mean, doing a regular job and then the freelancing and stuff. there are some days where I really worked like really hard to get into this position now, wherein I sacrifice my sleep and everything. But yeah, I'm pretty happy and proud of where I am now. So I would say like if you're independent, if you have strong skill set, if your communication is good, if your rate is good, then yeah, you are good to start as a freelancer.
Awesome. Sounds good. So yeah, I mean, Pramod, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. I really appreciate your time and expertise. Is there like anything else you would like to add in before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dilpreet, as well for this opportunity. And then I would say, like, if any fresher of if any experience is trying to look for some freelancing and stuff, so I'll be sharing you my LinkedIn profile and then my email and then my Upwork profile as well, wherein they can really, if it is an Upwork profile, they can really go inside my Upwork profile and see like how I have built my profile and everything, which will help them to which will guide them to to properly build their profile and stuff. So I'll be sharing that with you. Like you can just mention somewhere else, so that the persons who are really starting, they can reach out.
Perfect. I think that's really amazing and like kind of you. So I'm gonna add all of the details in the description and comments below, so you guys can check it out. But yeah, great man. Thank you so much for coming here, and I hope our listeners found this episode informative and useful.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
Thanks, Pramod.
Thank you, Dilpreet.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to grab the cheat sheet from the link in the description and the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give this a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more awesome content like this. Your feedback and suggestions for future episodes are always welcome, so feel free to share them with us. That's it for now. See you all in the next one.